Hey investors, Jay here. Today I would like to look at Bitcoin and try to understand where it's going and its effect to the overall market. What I'm going to do this time is to go in with a little bit more detailed look at the moonshot one. I'm going to go back into the first cycle and also look at the second cycle and how it presents confusion to some of the analysts out there. And obviously, we'll look at the latest price action here. What I have set up here is the first bull cycle, the first halving back in 2012. This is how it looks like. We have ground zero there, going up to this would be moonshot two. So that would be moonshot one here at about $12.50, and moonshot two was about 120. So that's the first cycle, and the second cycle is obviously back in 2016-17. I will look at it and compare it against the latest 2020-21 cycle and see where we are. All right. Now let's start off with the previous cycle, 16-17 against now. And this is where I think it presents a challenge, even for me initially. There was a challenge to identify where we are. Now, partly is because this fractal here is much, much bigger than the previous cycle's fractal. If you notice that we have, we have two of these fractals here that is hitting, the resistance lines around here. Whereas there's only one huge cycle, it looks like it, right, that hits all these resistance lines in the middle. So, um, so as such, it's hard to assess where we are and where we are going. But if we were to compare with the first cycle, it is much more closer. I mean, let me zoom in a little bit here. You can see that the first cycle, it comes up, goes back down, and that would be the all-time high, isn't it? So let me just put an all-time high here. Right, so that would be the all-time high um, that that we have on the first cycle. So that would be the first all-time high. Now, if you look at it, obviously, there's some pattern here, which is similar to the latest pattern. And what it has back in the first cycle is it just pushed up and have one of the cycles here, right? So, and that's what it looks like currently. And this is a much more bigger fractal. Now, obviously, we don't have details because this is back in 2011, 2012, and the price action is not as volatile, which presents a lot of wicks. But you can see there's only one main fractal here, which is around here. And the next move that it did is the moonshot one. So based on the first cycle, the next thing we are going is we are doing moonshot one right around here, right? So that's what we expect. I think next that price should be coming up here because it's not too far away from the all-time high, right? So let's just put another level here, right? So it's not too far away from the all-time high. So if we were to try to scale and show how it looks like compared to back in 2012, yeah, that would be it. So this would be all-time high for the latest fractal. And this still looks a little bit bigger, but the next action will be the moonshot one around here. It was much lower for back in 2012, but it still worked. If you were to take either the average or in this case, if you were to take to the max, it would work out that you would see that it indicates this would be the moonshot too, right? So, and obviously behind there, there is a moonshot tree, of course here, but we are not too interested at this point. Just goes to show that the projection to indicate that to be the moonshot too, and you can see the ranging days even for the first cycle here. Okay. All right. So what is the summary? First of all, comparing against the first cycle, what we are seeing is potentially the correction upwards here would indicate this cycle coming back down and then pushing up here, and this pattern here may be indicating it's around there, right? So if that's the case, then we are definitely pushing up to towards working on the moonshot one, which is what I'm expecting around here. So that's comparison against the first cycle, cycle one versus the cycle three. Let's look at the second one. So the second one would indicate that it's kind of a harder, just because again, you have two now. If you ask me, this little pattern here, now this is a much bigger pattern back in the second cycle, and it will indicate this one around here. Now what I saw was actually there's a much more smaller fractal here, but clearly this is a much bigger fractal compared to that, right? If you were to call that to be the second one, this would be the second one here, but it's hard to say which one it is. But if that's the case, then this big one, right, would be the third one. Now, is that the case here? If you compare against the resistance level here, where it is referring to, it would be very similar, right? It would be these resistance levels here pointing towards this fractal as this one here, right? Now again, you would see this fractal is closer to the top, which makes sense. And the next pattern is obviously the moonshot one pattern here, which you can see, right? So again, the second bull cycle here is also hinting that the next move will be the moonshot one. Now, some of the analysts that we have seen out there might be confused, thinking that Bitcoin might drop back down further. Now, is that the case? Now, if you were to think this pattern here is in relation to this fractal, you might think that the latest price action here would be somewhere around here, right? So it's about $457. It's somewhere around there. Now, if you believe that that's the case, then you're right. It could be a major correction coming down, um, which means it could be coming down, into the $9,000 level. But I do not think that's the case. Like I said, this fractal here, it's down there. It's much smaller, and this bigger fractal that is hitting all this resistance is indicating this one over here. So as such, let's zoom in over here and see, where the price action could be. So let's zoom in 2016, 2017. So this would be the fractal here to compare against, right? And if we were to use this, you see this would be a zigzag down, drop, up, drop. And this would be the same, a push down, up, drop. So this will indicate back the March crash. And then it starts pushing up. So let's start to zoom in from this level here. I'm just going to zoom into to the 4 hours on the latest price action. So that's where it is. So if we were to zoom in on this one, right? So if you were to try to trace this one, right? So this would be like a head and shoulder here, got a head and shoulder there. It comes out in a flat, then it comes out with either flat there. Then it obviously push up to this little pattern here, and this pattern, what is it? It has a distinct pattern around here, right? So so again, if you were to zoom out a little bit and just to try to uh, triangulate the position, this little hump here is close to this top over here. So it's roughly around there, right? This would be close to the top. Um, and that's what it is indicating around here, right? So this little correction here could be somewhere around there, right? So so again, you can see this layer coming back up twice and then pushing up to this layer uh, once, twice, fractal, pushing up to this, correcting back to sort of the base if you want, right? So this would be, sort of the base that it cuts through, and the base would be probably somewhere around there. Um, so yeah, so this would be the closest we can see. You might say, well, it could be this one pushing up. That may be true as well. So if that's the case, if we think the fractal is on this one, then it's definitely pushing up. Now, if we think that the current fractal here is doing this one, then there is a correction coming up. But this correction here is not a major one. So regardless, whether we are thinking that the current price action is here, which could be, right? And or it is right up there. That's a what if analysis here. Regardless, it's good news, right? It's good news because the next thing we are doing is a moonshot one coming up for Bitcoin, and as such, you can see most of the altcoins are starting to push up, right? So things like Neo, and ICX, and some of our coins here, even XRP. I'm saying that I'm looking at the potential push up over here. So so it's looking good, right? So am I going to short BTC soon? Or if any of you holders are going to close out? The answer is no, because the upside is huge. We don't know whether it's this one, right? Which is this pattern here. Okay. Let's push it over here. Yeah. Don't know if it's this one or this one. But regardless, we're dealing with an upside. So it's a buy season. Don't be selling. Again, right, altcoins will go up as well. So that's how we are seeing that this will be the start of the bull cycle.